I'm Councillor Don Henderson and I'm the Mayor of the Hepburn Shire. At a special council meeting, a number of draft strategic documents were made available for community feedback. They are the Draft Council Plan 2025-29, including the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan, our budget, 10-year financial plan, and the Revenue and Rating Plan and the Asset Management Plan. Council and councillors have worked hard since the election date last year to understand the requirements of these documents, just to see what we need to do to stay viable and really look into our future to see what we need to do for the long term into the next at least 10 years and beyond. We've come to the conclusion on these draft documents after feedback from the Financial Vision Community Consultation, and we've developed a plan that will put the focus back on delivering core services. In other words, we'll need to concentrate on what we need to do, not what we want to do. Some of the decisions are going to be tough decisions, both for the council and for the community, and we just had to make we're going to have to make really tough decisions going into the future. The reason the Essential Services Commission has supported our 7% rate cap variation is that firstly they accepted that the rate capping had done a lot of damage to small rural councils, and those councils that have a small rate base, a big area, and just there's not enough people to sustain rate capping over the long term. So, having said that, we're now putting this out to the community for their consultation to see what you think about it. I do urge you to think carefully about what it is that we need to do to make sure that this council goes into the future. We'll have our feedback open until Thursday the 5th of June, so you'll be able to make submissions. Naturally, councillors will be out and about. Please do speak to your councillors, get them to understand how you feel about things, but the underlying facts are that the Essential Services Commission would not have approved this unless we took action as a council to make sure we're very efficient, to make sure that we're not wasting any money, and we can go back into the past, but we're looking into the future now, where this new council has an opportunity to take the council forward. And that's going to mean, as I said, and I'll repeat, we need to do the things that we have to do, not the things we would want to do. Now, of course, councillors are the strategic people in the council, and to give you the nuts and bolts of how this all works, our CEO, Bradley Thomas, will tell you in detail what it is that we've had to do and why we've had to do it.
Hi everyone, hope you're well. Bradley Thomas, the Chief Executive Officer here at Hepburn Shire Council, and my pleasure to come to you to provide a bit of an overview, a bit of detail around the integrated strategic planning framework that councillors have endorsed for community consultation. Can I please acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of which we are meeting on? I'm filming this in beautiful Jarrah land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. As I said, I'll give you a bit of an update on the integrated planning and reporting framework, and it is a little bit of a mouthful, so I might just refer to it as the framework going forward. It's set in law and legislation through the Local Government Act of 2020, and it really is a suite of documents that council needs to put together and communicate to the community our promise of what we will deliver over the next period of time, both a short, medium and long-term range. Now, some of those documents are the ones that are out on display now to get your feedback from. They are our council plan, which includes our Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing plan, our budget for 25-26 and the next 3 years post that, our 10-year financial plan, our 10-year asset plan, and our revenue and rating plan as well. that suite of documents, I suppose, is, as I said, that promise with the community. There's a whole range of other documents, strategy plans, master plans, some internal documents, our workforce plans, our internal business plans, that then will go together around how do we deliver these plans. I suppose ultimately, probably arguably one of the most important documents of any council in its term is the council plan. That is the 4-year promise of what this council will deliver over the next 4 years. Our council plan for 25 to 29 has been developed based on 3 domains: Hepburn Life, Future Hepburn, and Hepburn Working Together. And I'll go into more detail about each of those, what they're trying to achieve, and why we've streamlined, I suppose, things to be under only 3 domains, whereas in past we've had more. A bit more detail about each of the 3 domains. So Hepburn Life, very much about that community focus. Hepburn Life's about building a vibrant, resilient and inclusive community where every person feels connected, informed and supported to thrive. Future Hepburn, very much looking forward, a lot about our planning and a lot about our infrastructure. So Future Hepburn strives to honour the distinctive character of our towns and rural landscapes while fostering sustainable growth, infrastructure and economic vitality. And Hepburn Working Together, I suppose that internal focus of all our services, but absolutely with an external focus as well, particularly in our improving our customer service, our responsiveness. So Hepburn Working Together is guided by a commitment to delivering high quality services, ensuring strong governance and fostering a positive and skilled workforce. So the other 3 domains, you'll hear a fair bit more about them throughout this presentation. As I said, we've been on a bit of journey post-council elections in October, and one of the first tasks that a council must do is put together its council plan. Now, when we sat down with councillors and worked through how we might like to work together on the structure, it was really clear around making sure it was more simplified, easier to understand, and more focused than maybe we've had in the past. And just to give you a sense of that, under the previous council plan, we had 5 focus areas, 23 objectives, and 116 strategies. So a real long list of strategies, actions, programs that we were going to undertake. It made it difficult to monitor progress and didn't give us a lot of flexibility across the 4 years. The council plan, the draft council plan that we've got before the community at the moment is under those 3 domain strategies, only 9 outcomes, but 29 strategies. And we've actually included 23 indicators in here so that we report back to you around our progress on the council plan. So as I hope you will be able to see through the presentation, and when you read and digest the council plan, we've made it easier to follow, a greater commitment of transparency and more focused as we head into the next direction of Hepburn Shire Council. There's a little bit on this slide around the structure of the council plan. I won't go into too much detail other than to say we've very much focused the council plan around being outcomes focused. So rather than a long list of this project or that program or that initiative, we've said, what do we want the community and council to look like in 4 years? And those outcomes are what we're going to work really hard to do to achieve. And so you'll see the outcomes focus really strongly coming through in this council plan. Here's the Hepburn Shire Council plan with the 3 outcomes and the 9 strategies just on a page. I'll let you be able to read that in your own time. All of these slides will be available on our website, and I've really tried to pull information out of the specific report, so you'll be able to get into a lot more detail through there. Hepburn Life, the outcomes and the strategies into a lot more detail that we go through there. But as I said, Hepburn Life can be very much focused around our community, supporting community through partnerships. And we're really wanting to see how we might be able to work closer with community on delivering initiatives. How do we partner better? How do we use the expertise in our community as well? You'll see a range of proactive outcomes through there as well. Certainly also talking about how we engage with community and how we share information. And particularly important, obviously, through our council plan, is actively involving First Nation voices, perspectives, and leadership to help shape council policies and decision making as well. And a real, I suppose, influence of Hepburn Life on making sure that we advocate for equitable, inclusive access to programs for all people in our community, no matter what stages of life people are at. And here we have Future Hepburn with, once again, the outcomes and the strategies. Very much, I suppose, picking up a lot of the work we've done in our strategic planning. So our rural strategy, the township structure plans, continuing that protection of agricultural land as well. Also in this strategy, you really see our infrastructure delivery. So absolutely focused on looking after the assets that we currently have, our renewal of those, but also making sure that we manage a financially responsible portfolio of assets. So we'll look at over the coming years potential asset sales, how do we work together with other councils or other entities of sharing resources as well, and certainly also, I suppose, through outcome 3, very much picking up our economy. So fantastic local businesses, a really strong visitor economy, but how else do we drive growth in our local economy, and how do we continue to have a rich and diverse range of events that certainly drive both community interest, great things for residents to be able to attend, but also drive numbers of visitors as well. And as I touched on, Hepburn working together, a little bit of that internal facing, making sure that we've got our finance and our IT and our people and culture, and really creating an engaged, safe workforce, but that we've got deliverables of our services. We're delivering them well, we're communicating where we're up to with customer requests, we're more responsive to community needs, and that we've got a strong governance project management framework that underpins that and sets us up for success. So that just gives you a little bit of intel to the domains and the strategies, as I said. And here we've got the list of 23 indicators. So we see these as there's a whole range of reporting that councils have to do through our annual report, the Know Your Council website, lots of legislative reporting that we do right across the entity all throughout the year. But these 23 indicators, we're supposed to say, will really lock in place our performance and our reporting back to you as the community to deliver those outcomes and strategies. There's some that are council-led where we really have the ultimate responsibility, but there's a number that are community-led and council can support. So where we need other groups to take on things, or there's impacts of other reporting elements where council's not always and 100% the lead in those components. So as I said, it's not designed to be a full list of all the reporting and everything that we do, but we think it's a really strong segue around some of those key things that we're reporting on. Included in the council plan is the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. So each council must put one together. Majority of councils have moved to including the health and wellbeing plan within the council plan, and that's really a focus that health is at the forefront of what we do. We did that for the last council plan, and we're continuing to do that. So you see it embedded in the council plan rather than a separate document. As part of the wellbeing plan, we've developed and worked through looking at state municipal, or the state wellbeing plan. We've also done a lot of work with some of our external partners in the health and wellbeing space, and the 2 focus areas for the next 4 years are going to be increasing active living and increasing the mental wellbeing of our community. So lots of the health and wellbeing initiatives, programs that we do right across the organisation will be focused around those 2 areas. As we move away from the council plan and to some of the other documents, I thought I'd touch on the Central Services Commission's decision to allow the rate cap variation that council applied for. So Central Services Commission, or ESC, independent commission, they reviewed our application and ultimately decided it was worthwhile and supported. So they've approved what is effectively a permanent one-off 7% uplift in rates and then we'll return post that to the normal standard state government indicated rate cap. For us, it's an extra $1.36 million in the first year, and that obviously will continue. And it really meant that we haven't had to cut as much services and programs as well. And I'll certainly come to those service cuts as well. And you'll see there on the graph, and as we've sort of put it out in our media, no one likes paying rates or taxes. It's a sort of necessary evil as we need to continue to develop and deliver services. What we are sort of saying is that even with the rate cap variation, we'll still be well below that of average councils. And you can see that will sort of certainly, even with the rate cap variation, below the average of all councils and below the average of small rural councils, which is our category as well. So that will apply for the 25-26 financial year, and your rate notices come late July, early August. The budget, another key pillar and document as part of this suite, and available for comment as well. And I suppose provides the insights of the revenue, the expenses. Here we've got the budget for 25-26, so a key pillar of the documents as well that's available for your community feedback, and really around the revenue and the expenses and the projects of how we fund in 25-26 the deliverables of the council plan. So that's been put together over the last few months. It goes into a lot of detail around the different services that we provide, provides you information on the grants we receive, the particular projects that we're taking, the user fees and rates details. Ultimately, when you put it all together, we're expecting an operating surplus of $3 million. It is really important that councils generate an operating surplus, and that is because we need to generate funds to pay for our capital works. Council has also achieved or budgeted to achieve an underlying surplus, which sort of strips out those one-off capital grants, those one-off natures. So what's come back to almost a normal year. So we've got a small surplus, which is really positive, and we also have an unrestricted cash position at 30th of June 26 of about $320,000. So they're quite small, which is really important to note. At part of our recovery, we expected them to sort of our surpluses or our unrestricted cash to be still on the minor side for 25-26, but absolutely a positive trend and probably reversing some of the trends of previous years, and helps in that recovery as well, and have been based on the direction of our adopted financial plan that we adopted in September 24. Capital works, so building things, $13 million. It is a little bit higher than we probably were forecasting, and that's particularly due to some extra grants that we received from state and federal government. So pleasing to note that we've got over $4 million in grants, so that helps us do some additional capital works. There's no new borrowings for 25-26. There's effectively no new borrowings forecast in any of the next 10 years. Really exciting that we've been with those extra grants that we've got coming in. We've got roads funding of over $6.6 million in terms of upgrades and renewal into roads. That's about double what we've been able to spend as sort of on average over the last 5 years, and very much a renewal focus through our capital works. And what we mean by renewal is let's look after the current assets, let's get them up to spec before we build new things. So very much a renewal focus for 25-26. Some other highlights or inclusions within budget 25-26 is that there's no increases to curbside waste collections. That's really pleasing. We've been able to work really closely with our contractors. We've been able to try and reduce costs where possible. So really pleasing that we won't be putting up curbside waste charges. And in fact, with those that receive a food and garden organic service, we've been able to reduce that by $40 post the first year. We've got nearly $1 million in strategic planning, which really includes the continuation of our structure plan work, our rural strategy, and will also help us fund what we need to do is a detailed submission to the Environmental Effects Statement, or the ESS, which will be due later this year. to oppose the building the Western Renewables link. So some significant funding, $1 million for a small rural council is really significant as we continue our work associated in our strategic planning lens. Open libraries, so we're extending that across all 4 sites, which will effectively mean you'll be able to access library services after hours, so that's exciting. And given we were successful with the rate cap variation, we'll put an additional, we already have there's a state pensioner rebate system. Hepburn Shire is one of the very few councils that offers an additional rebate to our pensioners, currently $21. We're going to double that to $42 just to assist those individuals with their rate bills and notices that goes out. So they're just a few of the highlights. As I said, there's a lot more detail in the budget plan. We spoke about the financial vision, which really said to the community sort of 12 months ago that we needed to find $4 million a year in permanent ongoing savings to, I suppose, exist as an entity. And we've been through that process. So we've now got the rate cap variation approved. And also as part of that, we needed to find $2.5 million of permanent savings for 25-26. Now that comes on the back of 1.5 million of savings in 24-25, and they'll continue. So really significant. So over $4 million of savings. So about 11% of our operational spend has now been taken out of the organisation. It is right across the organisation. Effectively, all services have had some reduction. Now, some will be minor and some tweaks and some efficiencies that we've been able to find, but we've also got, I suppose, some more substantial services or service removals as well. In the budget, in the services section of the executive summary, goes through each of our services and what will be coming out as a reduction. So I've got them on the following slides. I'll go in at a really high level about some of these. Encourage you to read the detail in the council plan. So some of the more significant areas we've certainly done and reviewing our organisational structure, number of roles and sort of management executive. We've been able to pull that back. This will have some impact on service delivery, but we thought it was really important to keep core staff, that service delivery, that front facing as much as possible as well. So there's some savings across there. We've got some savings within our and reductions of services within our inclusive communities area, which picks up things like wellbeing, inclusion, positive ageing, reconciliation, arts and culture. Moving towards having less direct service delivery, so less staff on the ground delivering services or programs, and more partnering across the community. So we are hopeful that that reduction in service and dollar allocation, that we can then look at how do we deliver the services to still get really good value? How do we work with our community grants more? How do we work with the other entities that are already delivering great work in this space? And more support rather than being the service delivery arm. We've had significant investment in our ICT infrastructure over the last few years, and given that we've been able to wind back some of our ICT spend. We'll still be investing in digital transformation, moving things more online, looking for efficiencies as well, but we've got some savings sort of through our ICT space there. Through these next areas, a little bit less significant in terms of their reductions, but still will be felt right across the organisation and our community, the recreation and sport, waste and sustainability. So really probably a bit different in here where we're trying to move away from community funded sustainability, a little bit more focus on our internal operations and how we continue to embed sustainability initiatives throughout the organisation. So there's some reductions in some of our community grant space in this area. We'll still be really active in the sustainability, circular economy, biodiversity fields, but just doing that a little bit less as we try to achieve this $2.5 million of funding. There's some small reductions in roads of infrastructure. We think that'll be really not that noticeable. We've been able to have some efficiencies. There's some things in there where we might have purchased a plant rather than hiring a plant. Really good business cases that we're just looking at how we do things better in that space. We've certainly got a number of cuts across our internal services, our financials, our P&C, our people and culture, our governance functions, really trying to still have a robust, really well-functioning organisation. But once again, we knew if we've got to find $2.5 million, which has not been easy, we really needed to look hard at some of our internal services. So you'll see some reductions in there. Continuing significant investment into our planning and building teams. We know it needs to be a real focus for us. And you'll see some other service changes, particularly across customer service, libraries, early and middle youth years. As I said, trying with $2.5 million worth of service cuts is significant and will be felt across the community. It will have an impact on our staff, and we're really supportive of them through this transition. There will be things that we just don't do going forward, but we are trying to streamline that as much as possible and look for new efficiencies. So I spoke around that open libraries earlier. That'll be really great. We've got some grant funding that's helped us roll that out. That might mean we're not as open with staff as much, but the libraries will be open more. So we'll work through those. A lot of that detail of the specific service that's changing, how it's changing, who your contact might be as a key staff member, will be worked through and communicated to you over the coming months. So you can sort of see all of the various services and areas that we've been able to focus. This budget really aligns on delivering the council plan. All of these documents are fully in line with the legislation. They talk to each other in terms of the key focuses of the council plan, have the funding, greater funding elements as part of the budget, and we've been able to save over $2.5 million. So that's really pleasing. But as I said, I won't underestimate the impact that those changes will have. Another component you'll see through the council plan is our community vision. Adopted this 4 years ago. It is long-term, 10 years. We're not proposing any significant changes to the community vision. We are doing some work with our traditional owners just to make sure we've got the right wording and allocation of all the traditional owners in the space. But we see this community vision as our sort of long-term 10-year goal, and that's why we haven't seen a significant update to the community vision. We've really concentrated on that council plan being the key component that we are changing moving forward. There has been lots of engagement to this point to draft the documents, and there'll be some further engagement to come as part of this video and sharing information. So we certainly have done lots of engagement over the last 3 or 4 years, some big projects, particularly around the township structure plans, the future Hepburn, the previous council plan and the financial vision. So we made sure that finding and information and all the fantastic news, ideas, ways of working that you've provided to us over the past got fed into it. Obviously, you've got councillor insight, officers insight. We had a community-based deliberative panel and a Shire-wide survey where we received over 400 surveys. So thank you particularly to the community panel that gave up a lot of their time to delve deep into providing us with great intel and information. And thanks to the over 400 that completed the survey. We've been able to really take the information from particularly those 2 engagements and include that in the council plan and the budget and so on. There's a document through our Participate Hepburn that really says these were the recommendations from the panel, the results of the survey, and this is the particular section of the council plan where you'll see it. So hopefully I really encourage you to read that document because it really it articulates, I suppose, the link of receiving information for you and what have we done with that with council and what's the output. And we're really pleased that we've been able to hopefully close that loop. Encourage you to have a bit of a read of that document. And now, obviously, we're sharing lots of information. There's this video, some fact sheets, and we want to check in on the draft. Have we got it right? And how do they align with yourself and thinking, particularly for the next 4 years of council? So particularly get to participate Hepburn and get more information on that component. There's some other sort of technical documents that form part of this suite that I'll go over quickly. And that's not to underplay their importance. They really do set, I suppose, some of the foundation for, I suppose, the council plan and budget document being a bit more of that key communications of what we're doing. Some of these documents are certainly very much the foundation. So we have a revenue and rating plan for the next 4 years. Which is around where does our revenue come from and how will we rate community and how do we split that difference up right across there. In the council plan is a strategy drafted to actively pursue alternative revenue opportunities. And that was really clear, particularly through the deliberative panel. Let's look at ways that we can seek additional revenue, not always from the same people. How do we bring additional revenue into the Shire? How do we potentially charge for different things? And part of that being, well, if we can increase our revenue, it means we don't have to impact our service delivery through cuts as much. So really clear through that deliberative panel and through councillors. So that's an active strategy in the council plan. In terms of the rest of the revenue and rating plan, there's no changes to the rating differentials proposed, so how we actually charge rates. We'll do some various briefings throughout the term and councillors on those additional revenue opportunities. They're not always easy to implement. And so if we're looking at doing implementation, we'll certainly engage with community over the next sort of 4 years of those items. And we want to do a bit of advocacy and push back to state government. State government mandate what some of the levels of a number of our fees are, particularly in the statutory place around planning fees and other items. We don't believe they've kept pace with the cost of doing business. So we'll do some advocacy around making sure state government do some benchmarking and review. Our financial plan is our 10 years, so it sort of takes that budget out over that longer period, very much aligned around our financial vision, very much around the objectives within the financial vision to making sure that we've got cash reserves to sustain service delivery, striving to have a little bit of buffer in our cash so that we can adequately respond to unforeseen emergencies or those opportunities. And in the medium term, we want to develop and put some funding away into a grants reserve so that we've got the ability to co-match funding when opportunities come up and work with state and federal government. We believe the financial plan does that. We're making some really tough decisions this year in 25-26 with the rate cap variation coming in, the service cuts coming through, but it absolutely sets us on the right path. The next 2 to 3 years, the numbers continue to still be tight, but you can see that improvement in our ratios and our surpluses and our unrestricted cash. And certainly towards the end of the 10 years, creates some buffer in that cash and also frees up, I suppose, the ability to us respond to some larger projects. So what you won't see in the financial plan or the financial vision is doing XYZ big project. And when I talk big projects, sort of those multi-million-dollar ones, why we've done that is absolutely on purpose. We haven't got plans as such that particular project's happening that day or that year. What we are saying is within the financial plan, there's capacity to do some of those bigger projects in a few years' time. So you'll still see us planning for projects. So we've got a couple on foot at the moment, particularly, I suppose, the Dalesford Community Facilities Project. What's the future of the Dalesford Town Hall? But there's lots of strategy implementation right across the Shire as well. We still need to be planning to be able to put quality projects in front of particularly state and federal government at elections, at budgets as well. So we're still absolutely got to focus on the renewal of current assets, but we can't lose sight of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the track that we want to be in a good position around helping to assist funding these key projects. So the financial plan allows that. There's capabilities to borrow in the later years of the financial plan if that's something council wants to do at the time, or there's capability of putting some more funding into capital works as well. And the asset plan, also another sort of that fundamental document, that foundation document, just short of $500 million of assets that we have responsibility to look after. Our assets are generally in really good condition, just above the national average, but we don't want to have underinvestment and we don't want our assets to get worse. We obviously, with $500 million worth, you could look at specific roads or buildings or footpaths and say, well, that one looks terrible and we need to work on that. Absolutely. When you look at it as a holistic, they're not in too bad a shape, but we want to continue. And that's why we've got that strong focus on asset renewal. Let's look after what we've got. Let's extend the life of what we're using. But then how do we get some grant funding? How do we work to best place any upgrades or new that we do? So we collect asset data really regularly. We update our asset information, and the asset plan is around providing information to you around how do we look after our assets? What do we look at when we're deciding which particular projects to deliver or do next? And so that's what you'll see in the asset plan. So I really do encourage you to get involved. There's a lot of information in these key documents. Today's video is just about showing a bit of a sneak peek or a little bit of detail, but really do encourage you to read those documents and provide us feedback. Please go to our Participate Hepburn site. That's where we're putting up the fact sheets, the documents, the link to how to provide us information back. If you want to, you can drop into our sort of hubs, our libraries and customer services, get a copy of the survey. Closes on the 5th of June, so really encourage you to review your data, ask us some questions, maybe pop into one of the, book in for one of the pop-in sessions that we've got. We'll get all that feedback post the 5th of June. Councils will consider, I suppose, all of that feedback, what's next, and then ultimately we'll put these reports for adoption at the council meeting on the 24th of June. As I said, really critical components of these documents as part of the integrated planning and reporting framework. We've designed them in a way that they talk to each other, and that's why you've seen the suite of the documents all at the one time. We didn't see the point in having a council plan and a budget later on. We want them to talk to each other. And we're really proud of the work that we've been able to do to date through the engagement and drafting these documents up. As I said, this is a really great opportunity to check in, and we want to hear your feedback on the documents. Have we hit the mark? What's missing? Where's those opportunities? As I said, tough times, but we really think that the last sort of 12 months at least, we've been really honest around our financial position. And it's not just something that's happening in Hepburn Shire. This is happening right across the local government sector in Victoria. And we're proud, I suppose, that the council plan and the budget in particular, with those other documents, set us up for success into the future. So I hope you found that helpful in terms of to get some intel. As I said, we're here to answer questions if you need, and please review those documents. Thank you.